Before you send me on another adventure, I want to ask you some questions. Yes, you can. Are you not a child? Taker smiled and said, "Of course I'm not a child. What else? I don't understand why white people hate black people so much." He laughed. "You asked me that question because I looked white." He said, "Okay, let me tell you that the creator of the universe never made such a thing as white and black. Look at it that way. A shirt will never be a skirt just because it has plenty of different colors. There is not a difference between a black shirt and a white shirt. Both still a shirt. In the vision of a human being, one shirt wants to take advantage of others and says he is superior to others. But such a thing does not exist for the Creator." He looks at her. "That's all you want to know," he said. And Sarah said, "What are you if you are not a child?" "That question isn't important. When the time comes, you will know who I am. I think for this experience you need something to protect yourself." On the table, a knife and a gun appeared. "Make your choice," he said. Sarah chose the knife. Then they appeared behind a house in the woods. Taker looks into her eyes. "I believe in you, Sarah. Choose your card wisely in this experience," and he disappears in front of her eyes. Sarah heard someone coming behind her. She turned, and it was an old man of a certain age. "What are you doing here alone, my dear? Oh, you look lost and you are so dirty." "Where are you coming from?" said the old man. "I'm lost," said Sarah. "I'm looking for a way to go back home." "Come with me," said the old man. They went inside the house. He showed her a bedroom with a shower inside. She took a shower and changed her clothes. "Do you have a daughter?" she asked him. "Yes," he said, "but she doesn't like me." "Why?" said Sarah. "Because of my past. I did something bad when I was young, and I regret it, because many families suffer," he said to Sarah. They were eating. Then he said, "You can stay here until your family start to search for you." Days passed by. During the day, the old man cleans his garden, feeds his cows and chickens, and his dog. He sometimes paints and also reads. Every night from her bedroom, Sarah could hear him crying and screaming that he was sorry. And every morning he looked happy, made breakfast, and passed the day working. One night,
Right, this is
the old
an
man
ambient
felt
sound
so sad
recording,
and took a
Madagascar,
bottle of
January
whiskey and drank it.
2016, on the island of
Sarah
Nozimanga
came to
Bay
sit in front of him and said,
Park Muswale,
"Arnold,
northeast
why are
Madagascar.
you drinking so much today?
This is
Why are
the
you
forest
so
at
sad?"
night, away
she
from the
asked.
beach, so it
"Because
should
I
have some
regret
nice
it.
clean
I feel
forest
ashamed
ambient
about what I
sound.
did to those girls." "Which girls?" said Sarah. "Those girls I killed because I wanted to be rich. The man in the black told me that I would be rich after killing 2 girls, but for the ritual, I was supposed to kill an albino child to be more rich. I'm rich, but unhappy." She cried and cried. Sarah got mad when she heard that. Her anger became so strong that she couldn't talk.
Sorry
She
about
looked
that,
at
that was a
Arnold and
hedgehog
stood in
rolling
front of
into
him.
the camera.
"You killed my friend," she said, "and I can't forgive you. That albino girl was my friend." She took the knife that she kept on her back. Arnold saw the knife, cried and said, "If you kill me, it will be right. I deserve it," he said. Sarah put her knife on his neck and cut his throat. Arnold suffocated and died in front of Sarah. She said nothing and looked at his body on the floor. There was blood everywhere. Taker appeared next to her. "That's right. One bad person out of the game of life," he said. He looked at Sarah and her eyes turned red and he smiled. "They appear in their seats. What did you learn from this experience?" Sarah said, "Vengeance. Tell me, my friend, how vengeance tastes. It felt right to kill him. He deserved it. Vengeance tastes sweet," she said to Taker. "That's true. Vengeance tastes sweet. Come with me, my friend." He took her hand. Then they appeared on the street. Sarah asked him, "Why are we here?" And he answered, to help a child who needed our help. They walked for hours and stopped in front of a red gate. He rings the bell, and a man comes open. "What are you doing here, guys?" He asked them. "Please, we're so hungry, can you give us something to eat?" Taker said to the man. The man took a minute before answering. Taker looked at him, and the man said, "Come in. But my boss can't see you, otherwise I'll lose my job." "Don't worry, nothing will happen," said Taker to the man. And he took them to the kitchen. He talked for some minutes with the cook. They came back, and the cook asked them to sit at the table. He cooked something for them, and they ate. When they were eating, a lady came into the kitchen. She saw them and asked the cook where those children came from. The cook said to the lady they were orphans and they lived next to Roger's house. He just repeated what Roger told him. Oh, it was sweet of him to give food to them, and a little boy came into the kitchen. "Mum," he said, and the lady said, "Oh, my love, I can't stay with you, I'm so busy." And she screamed, "Lara, Lara!" A woman came into the kitchen also and took the child away. The lady left also. Some minutes later, Roger came to the kitchen and said, "Mrs. Georgia said, you can stay for a week. I told her that you are an orphan and you are living alone. She sympathized with your situation." Lara came and took them to the room where she was with a little boy, and she asked them their names. "I'm Taker, and this is my sister, Sarah." Sarah looks at him. She was surprised to hear that, and he smiled at her. The woman looked at them and said, "You really look like your sister, okay. I'm a little busy, you can play with Noe," and she left. Sarah came and sat next to Noe. "How old are you?" And he answered, 5 years old, would you play with me?" He asked Sarah why not. She said, "What kind of game do you want to play?" "Don't be afraid," said Taker. "I really want to have a bicycle. I have never had one." He said, "Okay, let's go to the park," said Taker. Taker snapped his fingers and a bicycle appeared, and Noe played with the bicycle. "How did he know how to use it?" she asked him. "Because I gave him the ability to understand how to use a bicycle," said Taker. "It's strange why everyone thinks that we are siblings. He laughs when they look at me. They see a black boy. It's only you who can see my real human form." For a week, they stay in this big house. Every night, Georgia's husband always came home in the middle of the night. Georgia never spent time with her son. Fred always went to work early and also didn't spend a minute with his son. One night, Taker woke up Sarah. "Come, I want to show you something."
In the corridor there was a sofa and a little table. They hid under the table and waited. Sarah said, "What are we waiting for?" "Shut, be patient," he said to her. "Look," he said again, and they saw Fred coming out of Lara's bedroom. Then they kissed and he left. Sarah looked at Taker and said, "Mr. Fred cheats on his wife with Lara." "Yes," he said, "but you have to keep the secret." The next day, Fred went to work early. After her breakfast, she kissed her son and went out. As always, No stayed at home with Lara. "Come with me," Taker said to Lara, then they appeared in a bathroom. "What are we doing here?" He opened the door a little bit, and they saw Mrs. Georgia kissing a man. "Who is this man?" said Sarah. He was the business partner of her husband. So she cheated on her husband too. "You can see it," answered Taker. They went back home. "Now what?" she said. "Look." He said it was Mr. Fred and his wife fighting. Mr. Fred said to his wife, "I know that you are cheating on me," and he showed her the pictures. "I want a divorce," he said, and she laughed, "I won't divorce. I will never let you take my family money," she said and left. Mr. Fred sat on his chair. He was in his office. He picked up the phone, and he called a man. "You know what you have to do," he said, and hung up. They were at the table eating when the phone rang. For the first time Mr. Fred was at home early. Lara came with the phone and gave it to him. He stood in his chair and left. Sarah looked at Taker, and then they appeared in a hospital room. They saw Mr. Fred come in. He looked at his wife on the bed. She opened her eyes, and he put his right hand on her mouth and said, "It's time for me to be free from you." He took her pillow and put it on her face until she stopped breathing. He put the pillow back under her head and left. Then they went back home. 1 hour later, the hospital called him to announce the death of his wife, and he cried.
At night, Taker and Sarah appeared in Laura's bedroom in front of Fred and her. "Well, well," said Taker. "What are you doing here?" said Fred. "You realized your plan to be a rich man and you destroyed Georgia's life. You know she loves someone else from the beginning, but you killed her father and forced her to marry you, and you made her believe that her father's company lost a lot of money, and to save it she had to marry you, but she finally discovered everything, and you know that's why you killed her. Now you and your first wife, you want to kill Noe to have all the money just for you," said Taker. Before he opened his mouth, Taker cut his legs with his sword. He fell on the ground, and Taker put his hand on his chest and took his heart out and ate it. When Laura wanted to scream, Sarah threw her knife at her head and she fell out. Sarah went next to her body and took her knife from her head. Now what she said to him, he snapped at his fingers, and they were back in the library. Sarah asked him what would happen to Noe. His grandmother on his mother's side would come to take care of him. "Don't worry, he will never remember that he met us. Why did you eat Fred's heart?" "Because it smelled and tasted vengeance," and he laughed.